welcome everyone out there in Cyberland. I can't see anyone's face, which is weird, so I'll just imagine a bunch of really wonderful people tuned in, smiling and ready for a great session. So just a quick reminder before we kick off that you can share your thoughts on social media using the Police Resilience tag, one word, capital P, capital R, and tagging @ResilienceSimp, one word, on Twitter. My name's Stuart Bartels. I'm the Deputy Director, but currently the Acting Executive Director of the Australian Institute of Police Management, or AIPM, as we're known. And it is my great pleasure to be moderating this session on the topic of Australia-New Zealand leadership and resilience. And you can learn more about this session at resilienceSymposium.org. The AIPM, just quickly, so you understand who I am, is a national common police service, Australia and New Zealand, whose primary purpose is the development of senior executive leaders in policing and public safety. And I'm here because the AIPM believe that leaders and leadership play a critical role in the mental health and well-being of those on the front line. There is no avoiding the intrinsic link between the two. The acts of a leader can have absolutely profound effects on the outcomes of the mental health and well-being of our people. So that's why I'm here. And as it happens, the speakers that we have for you today are members of our alumni of the AIPM and partners of the AIPM. And that's what's enabled us to bring together three fantastic speakers with three fantastic stories. So it's with great pride that on behalf of the AIPM, I introduce those speakers one by one. Just broadly, we'll have Assistant Commissioner Phil Newitt, Deputy Chief Executive Kaye Ryan of New Zealand Police, Deputy Commissioner Wendy Steendam of Victoria Police. But without any further ado, I'll kick off with Assistant Commissioner Phil Newitt of the South Australia Police, who I think, for everyone's edification, is going to let you know where South Australia is as part of his presentation. So thanks a lot, Phil. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So I'll just try and bring up my screen so everyone, although it's not able, or it's been disabled, I don't know whether we can enable screen sharing, which is part of what I was seeking to do. Stuart?
Yep, that was my fault. Sorry, guys. Blame the New Yorker, not him.
No problems. I will just bring up for a little bit of context for everyone. So I'm hoping you can now see my presentation on the screen. I'll just go into the slide show mode. So I thought I'd start by just giving a little bit of context as to where South Australia, Victoria and New Zealand are for some of our international guests. So the green is South Australia, the red Victoria and the blue is New Zealand. So in relation to South Australia, again, a little bit more context, whilst we're a large state in terms of land mass, we're a fairly small state in terms of population, about 1.8 million residents. About 500,000 of those were born overseas. About 15% of our population come from or don't speak English as their first language at home. When you include the children, it's about 25%. About 2% of our population are Indigenous or Aboriginal Australians, which is a continuous culture that's around 60,000 years old, has some very complex systems of kinship and community. And as with many First Nations people, there are some very complex needs, particularly in terms of policing. South Australia Police, of which I'm one of the assistant commissioners, about 6,000 members, about 4,700 of those are sworn members. So I'll just continue to give you a bit of context because I think it helps to understand where we're coming from in terms of the mental health of our members and how we are seeking to build resilience. It's a very large state, but South Australia is green on the fringes near the ocean, but very quickly turns to a very rugged desert interior. It's harsh but beautiful, and the desert areas make up the majority of the state. Our terrain and our community really do shape our policing focus and how we respond to the community, and also how we respond in terms of the health and safety of our people. It's harsh, it can be isolated and pretty unforgiving. And that's probably well demonstrated by the summer we have just had. I'll just wait for the screen to catch up, hopefully. Doesn't look like it's going to. The last Australian summer was a particularly harsh one in the 2019-2020 summer. We had a number of bushfires, as we call them in Australia, taking over many parts of the countryside, loss of life, a lot of destruction of property. And as per usual, unfortunately, we had a bit of a technical fault here. And all those factors, particularly in terms of our members' involvement in the community, we saw many brave acts from our police, but police were injured. These have all had factors upon the health and welfare of our police. So we know, aside from the normal stresses of living in the community and being a part of a community, police officers face some very unique workplace challenges. So I did have a screen to bring up, which is not going to work, but I will push on anyway. I wanted to talk about how we as an executive over about the last 4 years have been working continuously to implement strategies and programs to assist our staff. The last 4 years has been a real focus of the executive. And really it was around addressing not just the mental, but the physical health of our officers in terms of our attempts to build capacity and resilience. A headline strategy had 4 specific goals that centred on increasing preparedness and resilience of the staff, improving our leadership capability in terms of our knowledge and understanding of mental health and wellbeing, and then to facilitate multiple pathways to early mental health care and support. And very much at the centre of it was adopting an evidence-based approach. Prevention first, we talk about that in terms of crime, and it's far better to prevent than to investigate and follow up and prosecute. And that's very much the approach we've taken with mental health and wellbeing programs. Something we commenced in around 3 years ago was a mental health first aid training. We recognise that our supervisors are really key to ensuring the health, safety and welfare of our staff, and particularly the resilience of our staff. We took over 1,000 senior members and trained them over 2 days in terms of a program that was designed to improve their mental health literacy. So very much around their knowledge and understanding of the signs of mental ill health and some what they may be confronted with in the workplace in terms of the perhaps the issues people bring to work, but also in terms of what they are confronted with at work. Then we also sought to build up through that program what we call psychological first aid to increase the confidence of our senior supervisors and some senior frontline practitioners to have a greater confidence in dealing with our members in terms of their mental well health, but also providing a toolkit of actions that they could use to be the first responder, if you like, before professional help is available. It's particularly important given the expanse of South Australia and the fact that we have many remote policing outposts. We can't always get face-to-face health assistance, so the role of supervisors is absolutely critical. And the last part of the mental health first aid training was about reducing the stigma surrounding people who may be in need of some mental health intervention. There are a number of other programs we've developed as an executive. Our employee assistance program, where people are able to utilise up to 6 sessions over 24 months. It's totally off-site. We have no visibility over the topics and issues discussed. We've engaged a service provider that only gives us a very high-level overview, so the members participating remain anonymous, if you like. It's been really successful in terms of assisting our staff to access early intervention, to access professional help. I also wanted to, and there are a number of other programs, including a safe space program, I should discuss a restorative engagement program where staff whom have been aggrieved through various actions, particularly around sexual harassment and predatory behaviour, are provided the opportunity to sit one-on-one with senior executives and to discuss what occurred to them in a safe space to be believed, and for agreed actions to come out of that to prevent the re-victimisation of staff throughout the organisation. I don't think any talk would be complete without mentioning our COVID-19 and our response. I feel as though as an organisation we've been well placed because of our structures we had already put into place over a number of years and the bedding down of those. Some takeaways from COVID thus far, and I would stress by saying we in Australia, and particularly in South Australia, have been very fortunate through some good planning, but also fortunate to not have mass outbreaks of COVID-19, and the small clusters that have occurred have been controlled. Really important for our staff through times of uncertainty was to have really clear and transparent communication. That's something we discussed very early as an executive. We made a lot of information available and discoverable from the members' personal computers and home computers, not so much just the work computers. We recognise that people may wish to access some of the assistance outside of the workplace. We extended reach of our internal intranets, if you like, which is something we hadn't done before, to extend the assistance to people. Our commissioner made a decision early to be the absolute voice and face of COVID-19 in terms of the broader community, but also internally to listen to the staff and to take questions and to ensure that he was available to give clear directions to where we were going and why we were doing certain things. It's worked really well in terms of the ability to engage with staff early. We set up 24/7 hotlines for concerns over interactions with the community, which may lead to thoughts of coming into contact with someone with COVID-19 or the health and safety and welfare of their family members. So thus far, we've really been able to lead our staff through COVID-19 without any major issues, thankfully, which has been, I'd like to think it's a product of our really well-established and embedded foundations that we've been able to build upon. The last aspect I wanted to touch on is about personal resilience. I think it's really vital as in life, not just in policing, but in life, to have a solid and trusted support network. Whether it's a partner or someone else whom is close to and is trusted, the ability to talk and to be able to express your concerns in a non-judged environment is really important. Like we talk about some of those programs I've discussed, it's really important to recognise that there is support out there and you have to reach out for it. Me personally, I've used a professional coach who's a psychologist over a number of years to not only assist working through some of those more difficult areas of general life and career, but some of the unique challenges faced by police in terms of some very public criticisms and some very public situations that we find ourselves in where we become the story ourselves, which is very uncomfortable and can add to our own stresses in life and impacts your mental health. There's no doubt about that. And I also wanted to make mention of the Australian Institute of Police Management. I was fortunate enough, and it was hear from Wendy shortly, and Wendy participated as well, to be engaged in the police leadership stream. What that really, other than sitting and forming relationships with peers, which is just wonderful, a real takeaway for me was we all have scars. Some are a little deeper than others, but we're not alone. And to have that network of trusted peers, I think it's invaluable. To hear their stories and to understand that you're not alone. There are people out there whom you can reach out to and talk to, but we've all tried a difficult path at times. It's part of what what we probably need to do to become a senior leader in any organisation, but particularly in policing, with some of the very public interfaces that we have. So this is the journey I wanted to talk about this morning, going from an organisational perspective, leading through COVID-19 and some of the programs we've been able to bed down, and then some of my own personal thoughts on resilience and how I maintain my own mental health. Stuart, I'll probably hand back to you. If you've got any things you'd like me to talk about in greater detail.
Thanks, Jeff. That was fantastic, and I didn't have to jump in and interrupt you. There's 44 seconds until the 13-minute mark, so well done. Look, what I heard a lot of things there, Jeff. Some fantastic work setting up the structures in the first place as an organisation, and how they've carried you through the COVID situation. And what really struck me was the connection with your people. So the communication piece that you set up, things like COVID leave, extended employee assistant programs, hotlines. You mentioned the family members, which I thought was fantastic. You know, not only thinking about the officers or the staff, and I think then the family members, you know, segued into your own story there of requiring. Excuse me, that is the timer. Let's cancel, stop that. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, but you are right. It's in relation to family, Stuart. I don't think you just can't separate your personal situations that weigh heavily on you, and you walk through the front door. So we've very much taken an approach where, particularly the employee assistance program is about not just the individual officer or member of the organisation. It's about the family as well. So we can. There are different types of family support mechanisms to ensure that we treat it as a whole, not just the individual. It's a really well-used program. It started slow as it bedded down and people built trust in the system. It's been really invaluable, and it's really well utilised by staff. It's an absolute preventative measure. It's there as an instant assistance, but the sessions can go on. We say 6 and 24 months. We have extended it for people on an as-needs basis, recognising it's far better to assist people to build up their resilience. Yeah,
and that's absolutely fantastic, Phil. And I'm not sure what the audience experiences are in their organisations, but you know, that sounds really powerful from an individual organisation to invest so much. And it exemplifies your own personal story, where you talk about having that support and you're providing it to your people. So, look, I think that's a fantastic presentation, Phil. We're bang on time, so I thank you very much. And I think that any Q&A that might come will come at the end of the 3 presentations. So I'll thank you, and I'll move on to Kaye. Thanks a lot, Phil. Okay, I hope everyone enjoyed that, and I will just roll straight into introducing Deputy Chief Executive Kaye Ryan of the New Zealand Police. And off you go, Kaye, whenever you're ready. I think...
Good morning, how are you?
Me, I'm good, and I'll take that as an extended how are you to all of those people
Everyone,
out there in the
I hope everyone's
well.
New Zealand Police is a single policing jurisdiction in a country of 5 million people. If we were in the US, we would be the 3rd largest police department there. We are larger than the LAPD and slightly smaller than Chicago. We have over 14,000 people working for us. About 10,500 of those are sworn police officers. There's 3,800 support staff, and they work across 300 stations across our 2 main islands. We're quite a diverse workforce. We have 34% women, which I understand is world leading, and we have 13% Māori, 6% Pacifica, and 5% Asian. We operate similar to what Phil was talking about beforehand, a prevention first strategy. Our operating model is to take every opportunity to prevent harm and prevent crime in our community before it happens. Ultimately, we want New Zealand to be a safer and better place to work and visit. Same with our people. We take every opportunity to prevent harm to them. So a key pillar of our wellness and safety strategy, which you can see on the screen, is physical safety and mental well-being, mental and emotional well-being, family and social well-being, and spiritual well-being. So we look at the whole person. Since 2016, our executive have continuously moved the focus of our wellness and safety model and our wellness and safety team from responding to when somebody's physically or mentally injured and to a holistic leader-led prevention focus model supported by really good professionals. Success for us is the absence of physical or mental injury, where people proactively report, where we can get in early and actually help them, and where people actually take personal responsibility for their own well-being and their own safety. You'll see in the middle at the bottom of the slide where we talk to it's okay to not be okay. We openly are driven to address the stigma that sits around mental health. We operate a prevent, advise and respond model for each of our pillars. What I thought I'd do is just talk quickly through some of the things that we've found successful with a particular focus on prevention, and then I'm going to talk about the broader organisation and the impact and choices we have as leaders of what we can do to support our people's mental health and resilience. So we have a normal range of offerings to help our people, similar to what Phil talked about earlier, things like resilience training, mental health first aid training, a peer support service. But some of the things that we find really good in the prevention space, one policy we have is our well check policy. That's where we've identified what we call high-risk work groups, like those people who work in child abuse or in a serious crash team. And they are sent quarterly to mandated psychological sessions. What we've seen over the past 2 years is our leaders requesting additional groups are included as a mechanism for them to get ahead of issues. We fund this centrally so there's no barriers to our smaller work groups accessing support. We have an early intervention program that analyses key data points such as use of force, sick leave taking, and complaints, and a range of other data. And that identifies for us people who look to be at risk. And when I say risk, I talk about people that might need help. What we do with that information is we give it to a trusted, quite senior person in the policing area, and they start a confidential conversation with that person to see if everything's okay and if there's anything we can offer. What we see is post those interventions, people are less likely to come to our attention. They are less likely to use force and less likely to take sick leave. We also know that prior to implementing our early intervention program, people with these types of indicators left unaddressed moved on to more formal disciplinary events. We are leading the conversation with our own people around it's okay to not be okay, but we use our leaders and our people to talk about it. In New Zealand this week, it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and all of our promotional material has our own people in it. They have all voluntarily come forward to put their stories forward, and we make many documents and videos to share our people's mental health challenges. And these come from some of our toughest units, some of our toughest people, our canine handlers who will share their stories of mental health challenges. We also use training as a preventative mechanism. We use cognitive conditioning Our police academy trains all new recruits on cognitive conditioning. It's based on the assumption that we can teach our people to control their biological response to stress by controlling their breathing. Our people need to be obviously fit enough to be able to do that. And it's based on a model called ABLE, where people learn to control their breathing using rhythm. It actually comes from cross-country skiing and ski Olympics, where people ski, they come up to a target and they shoot the target, and those people learn to control their breathing. It also has applied mindfulness in it to ground the person in the situation and in the moment. We know from our research is if people feel in control in a stressful time, the longer term outcomes are better and they're less likely to feel traumatised after an event. We know this from March 15, our New Zealand terror attacks. Our follow-up research with our people post-event showed that those people who used cognitive conditioning when responding were less likely to show post-event changes in their behaviours than those who didn't. From a leadership perspective, it's important to recognise mental wellness and resilience is more than just about those work events or people being exposed to things that have gone wrong, but actually the whole workplace. Our leadership and the people policies that support our people's resilience day to day. And I'll just move on to my next slide, if I can. This is New Zealand Police's strategy on a page. And if you look to the right-hand side, we have a column about our people, our leadership, and our culture. I just want to touch on some of the things more broadly contained in our business as well. One of the key things to our people's resilience is actually our relationship with our communities, working beside them to prevent crime. We deliberately don't talk about ourselves as law enforcement. We talk about ourselves as a police service. We exist to do more than enforce the law. We keep the peace. We maintain public safety and support and reassure our communities. We've worked really hard to gain our community's trust and confidence. And at the moment, we sit on 78% trust and confidence. Our communities will generally support us in the work we do, and it impacts on the way our people feel about themselves. Recruitment is another great lever for resilience. We have really strict psychological standards so our people can be safe when they are faced with hard things that they will see and do. We look for things such as empathy and community connection and problem solving when we're recruiting, rather than the harder physical or tactical skills. We can train for those. Recruiting for diversity is also a key to our people feeling more connected, not only connected with their communities, but also connected with their colleagues who look like them. COVID-19 was a difficult time for us in New Zealand. We went hard and we went early, and we are really, really lucky with where we've ended up. But similar to what Phil talked about, we had a single communication that went out to our people every day. We opened up a phone line for our people to ring with any concerns they had, whether it was about their physical safety or their emotional safety. We had a wellness hub that we opened up so our family members could use it, that had all sorts of information to help our people with responding to COVID. Many organisations survey their people, like Voice of the Employee or Employee Experience. We surveyed our people about COVID. We asked our people if they felt supported by us. 87% of our people said they did. 9% of our people were neutral. We asked them if they were still feeling connected to their colleagues, and 86% of them said they did, and 11% were neutral. We asked them if they felt that whether we were keeping them safe. 90% of our people said they felt that, and 8% were neutral. We also asked if they had access to PPE, in their work group. The only work group that reported that they didn't have enough access was actually a desk-based group in headquarters. We actually also asked them about sentiments and feelings. Our top categories that our people reported back to us in terms of how they were feeling were accepting, calm, positive, and optimistic. Less than 2% of our people felt alienated, depressed, or hopeless. We contacted all of those people for follow-up to see what support we could offer them. Finally, sometimes it's about how you respond in an emergency situation. And for us, the terrible events of March 15, our mosque terror attacks, the way we responded to our people has set us up to deal with crisis situations in the future. As a leader, one of the key things you have to do in these events is be incredibly involved, ask questions, and make sure things are actually happening. We deployed our wellness advisors, and they had 754 one-on-one conversations with our people. Our support staff based in Wellington rang 1,400 of our people the days following the attacks to see how they were and if they needed any support from New Zealand Police. I personally was contacting the union every day to ask them what was happening on the ground from their perspective and what more could we do. What they suggested was a psychologist on site to help our people. So we got 2 psychologists, and 223 of our people went to psychologist sessions within our own police station. We had 362 of our people referred for follow-up counselling. We had a masseuse, we had light therapy, and we extended our services to other departments such as our colleagues in ambulance. What I've found is you need to offer a variety of services to people for them to choose what they want and what suits them. When we moved to withdraw some of our support services from Christchurch, we developed an integrated wellbeing plan that was led by our leaders in the district and supported by our professionals. I guess from a leadership perspective, you need to commit and invest in mental wellbeing and resilience. We need to talk about it and have the courage to be vulnerable and hear what our people think.
2-minute warning there, Kaye. Thank you.
I know not all small jurisdictions will have the money to implement some larger scale initiatives, but I do encourage you to look at the types of people policies you have and the environment that you create and support as leaders as a mechanism for resilience and wellbeing in our people. Thank you.
Sorry, nearly clicked the wrong button and disappeared altogether. That would have been no good. Look, Kaye, thank you. That was absolutely fantastic, and I can tell you that you lit up the chat. I had trouble keeping up with all the information there, but what came out really clearly was at the beginning was the prevention first strategy. So really attacking the preventative measures. But what really seemed to light up the chat was this essence of care for your people in New Zealand and the community at large. You know, even things like spiritual well-being I picked up there, you know, no stone left unturned. It's okay to be okay. You know, just a few snippets from the chat. Nicole Johnson said, "Be first, then do." She really loved that. Jack Harris has loved the essential piece around prevention. And Bruce May wants to know if you're taking applications. I think Bruce is from in the US somewhere. So
we've got too many, sorry.
So look, you really lit up the chat, and again, just repeating what really came out, what the part that lit up the chat was the care that New Zealand Police have for their people, and then you know, what greater example than during the Christchurch incident, you've called 1,400 people and stood up sites that 223 people have taken advantage of. although I think one person on the chat was attracted by the masseuse. That I think that's another person that wants to come to New Zealand. So look, thank you very much. A lot to take in there. I think that's a wonderful presentation that really hit home how hard New Zealand is working on the resilience of their people. So thank you, Kaye.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks very much to everyone that's engaging in the chat as well. It was really good to see the chat shift from general conversation to one focused on what the speaker is talking about, and we're getting some fantastic feedback as a result of that. So can I encourage you to keep tuning into the speaker and keep engaging on the chat as to the content that the speaker is offering. It's wonderful to read as the speaker's going. So I will now introduce our last speaker, Deputy Commissioner Wendy Steendam of the Victoria Police. Wendy, are you there?
I am, Stuart. Good morning, everyone.
Welcome.
And I think good afternoon to those that are in the US and from other parts of the globe. Let me start by setting some context of the environment in which Victoria Police operates. So the state of Victoria is a landmass of approximately 228 square kilometres, or 88,000 square miles. So we're about the size of the United Kingdom. We're a statewide police force that was established in 1853, and we provide services to over 6.6 million Victorians. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week across many police service areas. We have a workforce of over 20 with over 16,500 sworn police officers and others being specialist public service professionals and some protective service officers who also work alongside police. We have approximately 35% of our workforce that are women, and we're traditionally the second largest police force in Australia. However, on a most recent report on government services, we've picked New South Wales for the #1 spot. So we are the largest police organisation in Australia. We all understand and have seen the research and statistics highlighting the importance of health and wellbeing of our workforce. And I thought I'd talk to you today about some of the practical things that we've been doing within Victoria Police and what we've accomplished over many years, not dissimilar to what Kaye and Phil have been talking about. So we have progressed significant work on prevention, early intervention and responses to employees' mental health. The risks to the mental health and wellbeing of police begin at the start of their career, and the consequences of long-term exposure to trauma can extend well into their life beyond policing, and we recognise that through our strategy. The health, safety and wellbeing of every employee of Victoria Police is an absolute priority, and for many years now we've had a zero harm vision for every Victoria Police employee to be personally committed to the health and safety of themselves, their fellow employees and the community in which they serve. And we deliver this through the mindset of zero harm, and that is think safe, be safe. And through prevention, early intervention and recovery, we aim to bring safety to the forefront of everything we do and ensure all employees are healthy, fit, ready and capable. And it's a mutual obligation between employer and employee. And while many people challenge the zero harm approach, seeing that as aspirational given the dynamic environment in which we all work, we've helped that this helps us focus our response to the many challenges and opportunities that we face as an organisation. In October 2015, we commissioned an independent review into the mental health and wellbeing of Victoria Police employees, and we used renowned clinical and organisational psychologist Dr. Peter Cotton, who sadly passed away in November 2018, and he led a small team over several months. Past, present employees and their families were asked to contribute to the review, which looked at how our organisation could best deliver our wellbeing services to support our employees throughout their career and into their post-Victoria Police lives. The review was delivered in May 2016, and it highlighted the need for cultural change to eradicate the stigma attached to mental illness, with 39 recommendations made in total. Key areas of focus included increased education and training around mental health, greater focus on the welfare of employees by leaders, and enhance services for members, retired members and their families. And what was really important to us in this review was the involvement of families and understanding how they and our employees wanted to receive support throughout their employee life cycle, from recruitment right through to transition into another career or to retirement. And at the same time, we also looked at some of our data, and I'm sure this is similar in other jurisdictions. On average, our employees who have a psychological injury claim were away from work for over 103 shifts. Mental health related injuries made up 28% of work cover, yet accounted for 70% of total claim of costs. And our rate of returning people with psychological injury to work was only 64%, whilst a physical injury was 93%. So building on and directly addressing the outcomes of the 2016 Mental Health Review, our Mental Health Strategy and Wellbeing Action Plan 2017 and 2020 was developed to strengthen our capability in dealing with mental health issues, as well as the development of a framework to address inappropriate workplace behaviour through proactive targeted interventions and support programs. And for those that are interested, both the review and the strategy are available on our website. That's www.police.vic.gov.au. The plan outlines the mental health and wellbeing vision, which is Victoria Police employees who are mentally fit, ready, capable to contribute to a safer Victoria. And we are working in conjunction with our employees to better equip our staff to deal with the rigours of policing, identify within themselves the need for support and where to seek it, and to gain greater awareness of their entire health, both mental, physical and emotional. And the priority areas of the strategy include leadership and cultural change, mental health literacy, mental health and wellbeing services and improvement to those, and the employee life cycle initiatives. And our strategy addresses these priority areas through 6 objectives, which I'll touch on briefly. So leadership is critical. Victoria Police recognises the benefits of people-focused leadership, and that needs to be part of the broader leadership framework that's embedded across our organisation to help employees feel more supported and valued in their roles. And in 2017 and 18, over 300 senior leaders in the organisation, including Deputy Commissioners such as myself, attended important educational programs to address the findings of the Mental Health Review and a Human Rights Review that we had also undertaken. The programs centred on shifting the mindset of leaders and equipping them to lead change around gender equality and mental health, and a series of workshops focused on teaching leaders to understand the impact they make, the shadow they cast, and promoting greater gender equality and increasing mental health awareness. And guides to services and tools were also made available and provided to everyone that participated. Compulsory leadership programs cascade to our broader leadership group, right down to the sergeant level, and we have included modules in our foundation training, including recruit training. In terms of preparedness, we've had a long-standing focus on physical preparation, but psychological preparation needed to be given more attention during recruitment and to continue throughout the life cycle as career and life needs change. So we've introduced a variety of programs to improve resilience, encourage reflective practice and upskill our managers and senior officers. And as has already been said, entrenched stigma is a barrier to help seeking. Many people are reluctant to reach out for help, and we aim to normalise common mental health conditions and the stigma associated, thus increasing awareness and help-seeking behaviour. As an example, last year we implemented the Healthy Minds, a refreshed and expanded mental health literacy program that focuses on building resilience and self-care for employees and people leaders. And we also released the Understanding and Managing Your Mental Health online modules. And the aim is, to, as I said, to reduce stigma, facilitate early intervention, address common barriers to help seeking, and establish a shared language regarding mental health and providing a foundation on which to deliver a range of other safety initiatives. We also run a 12-week trauma recovery and resilience group program aimed at bridging the gap in treatment options for police members with subclinical post-traumatic stress syndrome. And we also know that organisational factors, including systems and structure, play a significant role in employee health and wellbeing, and work has been undertaken to improve many of our organisational systems and processes and to bring our case management platforms into one single area, ensuring that we have greater integration of services and have streamlined our processes. In terms of our services, stigma and poor help seeking mean that employees at times do not get the care that they need. Victoria Police now offers current and veteran employees and their families e-treatment services via an online mobile-enabled employee assistance gateway that individuals can access directly and securely. And as Phil said, we don't actually know what is talked about in those programs. It's completely confidential. And our senior leadership group, that is our Chief Commissioner and all of our deputies, participated in a video to share our own experiences and to encourage all employees to become familiar with and, more importantly, access the many support services available to them. Many employees continue to experience psychological impacts of their policing career long after they leave our organisation. And to help them, we've developed a career transition guide as part of the broader career transition program. And all our employees are being supported to leave the organisation mentally fit with options for ongoing support as required. And we've recently expanded support to police veterans. This program includes over 700 former employees who have volunteered to undertake a formal peer support role for former sworn employees. We've also developed tools. So in 2016, we launched the Equip smartphone app. It's a free wellbeing app that was developed by Victoria Police and Police Association Victoria, and includes specific information on all jurisdictions in Australia and New Zealand, and it has tools that can help strengthen physical, social and emotional wellbeing, and it can be downloaded on the App Store and Google Play, and it's been downloaded over 24,000 times so far. To complement this, we also created a Blue Space web page that can be accessed by members and their families, and it provides accurate information about mental health and support services. We've also been undertaking during all of this period pulse checks through short anonymous employee surveys to help us measure how the changes are translating for our employees. And whilst it's early days yet, and the literature does suggest that it takes 3 to 5 years to see significant change, we are seeing some uplift in confidence to initiate discussions about mental health supports. One of our health and safety KPIs relates to time lost to injury, and whilst some other injury types have had minor increases over the past 12 months, we've seen mental health has increased by 22% over the same period. And we encourage this. It's not unexpected given our approach to encouraging people to engage with services and take the time necessary to complete their treatment strategies. So I've talked a bit at the high level about the things that we've been doing, but I also wanted to talk about some of the practical things and some of the practical application of the reforms that we've undertaken. In terms of leadership, it's widely recognised that cultural change needs to be led and moulded from the top, and you've heard that from both Kaye and Phil. We've certainly done that here at Victoria Police. In October 2018, the then Chief Commissioner and the Police Association Victorian Secretary walked together to support mental health. They came together from opposite sides of Victoria, and you heard how large that is, in a head-to-head fundraising walk covering a combined 1,000 kilometres on foot. And over a 3-week period, they walked the roads with a range of co-walkers joining them for Victoria Police, including the executive, the Police Association and the community. And along the way, they visited police stations and participated in events with local communities to help broaden awareness and raise much needed funds to support police veterans affected by mental health issues. And they had a fundraising target of over $500,000 and they exceeded that. We've increased our ability, obviously, to respond to large-scale psychological support to our members that are affected by traumatic events. And I did want to talk about an event that happened this year and just how the support model that we put in place was actually put in place for this event. At 5:40 p.m. on Wednesday, the 22nd of April 2020, a truck struck and tragically killed 4 members of Victoria Police at Kew on the Eastern Freeway. Leading Constable Lynette Taylor, Constable Glenn Humphreys, Senior Constable Kevin King and Constable Joss Presley had intercepted a separate vehicle and were doing a routine check when they were killed. This incident marks the largest loss of police life in Victoria history in one single event. On the night, our Commissioner and our Assistant Commissioner for Road Policing attended this scene. And there was significant media and interest in the event, as you can imagine. Our welfare and our chaplaincy support went to the affected workplace to deliver the messages to those workplaces and to provide them the support that they needed. And internal messages were sent to all our staff from our Chief Commissioner. And there was acknowledgement of the incident from the Premier, the Police Minister and the Police Association. Senior members were allocated to deliver the death messages to the families, and they were supported by the chaplaincy and welfare services. And we're all involved in discussions on the night and the following day. And the following day, each affected workplace was visited by a member of our executive, along with welfare services, their local management and the Police Association, to provide support and care to those that have worked with the members and also to those who had responded to the incident. We provided updates to them on the circumstances of the incident, the investigation, and also offered welfare support and just spent time with them to support them in their grief. The Chief Commissioner spent significant time the next day with each of the families, and I know everyone I spoke to was profoundly impacted by the incident and the loss of our members. And my last activity on the day, heading home quite late, or before heading home quite late, was to check in with our Commissioner, and I also spoke to several of my peers who'd been out in workplaces along with myself and those that had delivered the death messages the night before, just to check in on their welfare, and they were all deeply affected. And after those calls, I took a moment myself to stop, to reflect on the loss and sacrifice of our members, and in fact shed a few tears at the profound loss and tragedy prior to heading home myself to see my own family, sadly something that those members do not get to do anymore. And given we're in significant COVID restrictions at the time, all the funerals had to be arranged and worked through with the families that were COVID compliant. And we ensured, along with the families, that we provided a fitting tribute and acknowledgement to the sacrifice of our members. There was also great support from the community, and we continue to support the families and the members affected by this incident. And I highlight this incident and some of the steps taken because how leadership engage is critical at such times like this. Not only for the families and the community, but specifically the members who attended and responded to the scene, and also those that are grieving the loss of their loved one, peers and colleagues. And we continue to support and acknowledge the four members, their sacrifice and the loss. And the support to all of those impacted and the acknowledgement of the members' sacrifice will be enduring for us as an organisation. I was extremely proud of our organisation and the support that we wrapped around all who had been impacted. And this to me is evidence of the effectiveness and the importance of the work that we've all been undertaking since that review in 2016, and to help our members to be resilient and to recover from this profound loss and tragedy. So to sum up, I've spoken a lot about the macro level and about the intent of our reform work in Victoria Police, the issues that we've faced and how we went about identifying the supports needed for our members to enter and exit our organisation in good health. And I've described in practice how we apply that reform work and the supports that we now put in place for our members. I think the challenge for us as an organisation remains to ensure that these changes are enduring practices throughout the whole of the organisation. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Fantastic presentation. I didn't stop you because right at the 13-minute mark you hit the story about the four officers, and I really didn't want to jump in there because that was an absolutely powerful story. Again, the thematic prevention piece, some of the data you presented earlier, I think, which is secondary, but to the absolute authenticity, but still really powerful data around the percentage of people that return to work, and comparisons with physical and mental I thought were really great as well. On the chat line, Janine Hansen was struck by establishing a shared language around mental health, and Nicole Johnson leading from the front. And then right at the end, of course, that incredibly powerful story and touching on your own resilience at senior levels, calling in on the commissioner and your own experience with taking a bit of a moment for yourself. It's easy to forget that our senior people are people as well who need support. So look, thank you very much for an incredible presentation. I really appreciate it.